Hello guys, good morning. My name is Tanveer and I'm here for physics. So today we will start a thermodynamics, a very important and a very interesting topic. And if you talk about according to your exam point of view, so in JEE mains, generally from 2 to 4 questions will be asked. And if you talk about advanced, it goes to 3 to 5 questions from this unit, heat and thermodynamics. Out of that, today we are going to start laws of thermodynamics, where we are going to discuss that when the different procedures are taking place, where heat comes into the picture, then what kind of laws they follows, right? So here, to start with, let me tell you some contents about the laws of thermodynamics. But before that, let's talk about, if you say thermodynamics, if you talk about thermodynamics, so here, as already we say, therm means heat and dynamics means motion. So heat is a heat energy and dynamics means motion, means kinetic energy, which is a form of mechanical energy. So here basically we are going to discuss the relationship between the heat energy and the mechanical energy. Fine. So if you talk about the contents of this chapter, so we can start like, the first thing that we have to discuss about zeroth law of thermodynamics. Then we have to discuss about calorimetry. And then we will start first law. Then first law process. And then after that we'll start second law, and then sixth one, applications of second law, where we're going to discuss about heat engine, heat pump and refrigerator. And then after that, applications of second law, there's one more application, that is what? Entropy. And then only introduction of third law. This much of things we have to discuss in this chapter. Now, so we'll start with zeroth law, and this whole content will be covered near around 5 to 6 hours. Fine, let's see how much we can finish today. So first of all, we'll talk about zeroth law. Acha guys, let me tell you one thing before starting. In the beginning, first law was introduced, then second law and third law. When we have discussed about the third law, then we found that from the beginning, we are keep on talking about temperature. But till now, we have not introduced about temperature. We have not informed that what is temperature. So first of all, first, second and third law came, and then after that zeroth law came. That is why its name as given as zeroth law. You can call it as fourth law of thermodynamics also. So let's talk about zeroth law. Simple. If we talk about zeroth law of thermodynamics, it says that suppose there is a body. Acha chalo, before starting the chapter, let's discuss some basic definitions that we need to know to start this chapter. So for that, first thing is thermodynamic system and the surrounding. See, actually, when we talk about system, so anything can be considered as a system. And except the system, remaining everything is surrounding. So what is the use of this system? See, actually, whenever we are talking about any particular process, so we have to limit our thoughts. For example, suppose I am considering this room as my system. Here, fan is there, people are walking, chairs are there, tables are there, so many things are there, board is there, marker is there, I am speaking, so many things are there. When I am talking about a particular procedure, suppose I want to find out that total how much work suppose I am doing. So for that, if I am considering me as a system, then I will have to think only about me. But except considering me, if I'll consider this whole room as my system, so then I will have to talk about each and every content of this room. Like I have to think about the tables also. I have to think about the other people who are walking, who are talking. I have to think about the tube light, fan, everything. So if my target is to find out the work done by me, then to limit my thoughts, I'm considering a system, right? So now I'm considering me as a system. So now I have to think about myself only, that what are the things I'm doing. So which will help me to give the proper direction to my thoughts. So that is why we are considering a system. And then obviously something is system and remaining is surrounding. So definitely something is there which is separating both of them. So that we call it as the boundary, right? So if I'm saying that if this is a system, then remaining everything is what my surrounding, and then this is what my system boundary. First thing. After that, next thing is thermodynamic variables. See, actually, when you talk about anything, so to represent that particular phenomena, we need some parameters. For example, suppose if I wants to tell you that nowadays winter season is going on, so what is the atmosphere? If I want to give you the full detail, so I will have to tell you about the temperature, about the pressure. So what is this? These are the parameters of this atmosphere to represent. In the same way in thermodynamics, pressure, temperature, volume and heat content, these are all the what? Variables. Okay. Now after that, next thing is thermodynamic state. So at any particular point of time, to give the information of any process completely, we have to tell in terms of pressure, temperature, volume and heat contents about all the details, about all of them. So at that particular point of time, information of all these thermodynamic parameters or thermodynamic variables is nothing but your thermodynamic state. Chalo, fine. Now after that, in this chapter, we will limit our thoughts only for the ideal processes. So in terms of this, there are two kinds of processes. One is ideal process and one is real process. What is the difference between ideal and real process? The difference between the ideal and the real process is we are not considering any kind of losses in case of ideal cases, ideal process. But in real cases, all the practical life losses will be applicable. Okay, so here our thoughts will limit only for the ideal cases. Now here, ideal case we will call with a different name is called as reversible process, and in case of real process will be irreversible process. Now what is exactly reversible and irreversible process? That we will discuss in second law. When after that we will discuss about the quasi-static process, and then we will proceed our discussion further. Fine. So these are a few things. Now let's talk about the zeroth law of thermodynamics. So already I have told you here that zeroth law come at last. Why? Because we have already talked about the heat, about the process, whether the process is taking place or not, in what conditions the process are taking place. All these things already we have discussed, but till now we have not talked about temperature. So now we are going to discuss about the zeroth law. For that, let me clean up my board. Okay, so if we talk about zeroth law, so suppose here there's our body, right? Let us take this is body A. This is body A. If I'll bring a body B in contact with body A, and we see that there is no transfer of heat in between them when we are bringing them in contact. Acha. In thermodynamics, let me tell you one more thing. In thermodynamics, whenever we will bring two bodies in contact, then always we will use two kind of walls. One is diathermic wall, and the second one is adiabatic wall. What diathermic wall does? It allows to flow the heat. And what adiabatic wall does? It does not allow to flow the heat. So when these two bodies will come in contact, so here we will provide a diathermic wall, and remaining everywhere here we will provide a adiabatic wall. In the same way, from here to here I will provide a adiabatic wall, so that heat should not transfer from any other part except these two. We found that suppose when body A and body B are coming in contact, and if between them there is no transfer of heat, and if I'll bring one more body in contact, which is C, by using the diathermic wall, and if between A and C also there is no transfer of heat. What I said, when body B is in contact with body A, there is no transfer of heat. Body C is in contact with body A, again there is no transfer of heat. So in this situation I should say that body A is in thermal equilibrium with body B, and body A is in thermal equilibrium with body C. This is what we find. Now, zeroth law says that if body B is in thermal equilibrium with body A, and body A is in thermal equilibrium with body C, then body B and C will also be in thermal equilibrium, that's it. This is what about zeroth law thermodynamics. Which means, what is the result of this? The result of this is that when all the three bodies are in thermal equilibrium, so if I'll bring body B and C in contact with each other, then there will not be any transfer of heat. And for this, now let's see here two questions are there. First thing is, in this situation or in any case, whether there is a transfer of heat or not. First question. Second one is, if yes, then in which direction? These both the answers can be given with the help of temperature. That is why zeroth law has been introduced. First question, whether the heat is flowing or not. Whether the heat is flowing or not. So for the first answer is, if there is a temperature difference, then heat will flow. If there is a temperature difference, then heat will flow. First thing. Second question was, in what direction? Then the answer is, so the second question is, in what direction? Then the answer is, energy or heat will flow from higher temperature body to lower temperature body. From high temperature body to lower temperature body. So this is what about zeroth law. Now, after this, we have to talk about calorimetry. So before that, let's understand one thing. Let's not get confused. There's one thing. Let me tell you. One thing is thermodynamic equilibrium. And one thing is, we can say, thermal equilibrium. Zeroth law talks about thermal equilibrium. It does not talk about thermodynamic equilibrium. We have to be very clear with this. See, actually, when we talk about thermodynamic equilibrium, it has three parts. One is, second one is mechanical equilibrium, and the fourth one is chemical equilibrium. We have to be very clear that when thermal equilibrium, mechanical equilibrium, and chemical equilibrium, all the three will lie together, then we call it as thermodynamic equilibrium. Otherwise, zeroth law talks about thermal equilibrium. It does not talk about thermodynamic equilibrium. Even this question was asked in even NEET once. Fine. So, thermal equilibrium means temperature of the two bodies has to be same. Mechanical equilibrium means For this, the net force on both the bodies separately should be 0. Chemical equilibrium means chemical composition throughout the body has to be same. So when all the three will lie together, then there is a thermodynamic equilibrium, and thermal equilibrium means temperature is same. Now these three equilibriums are completely independent of each other. They all three can lie together, cannot lie together. They may not lie together. So that's the different thing. Anyhow, so from here about zeroth law we discussed that when one body is in thermal equilibrium with the second body, and the third body is also in thermal equilibrium with the second body, then first, second and third, all the three bodies together or separately will be in thermal equilibrium. What is the output of thermal equilibrium? When the body attains thermal equilibrium, then there is no transfer of heat, because thermal equilibrium means temperature is same, and if both the bodies have the same temperature, then there is no temperature difference, and as there is no temperature difference, there will not be flow of heat. Fine, this is one thing. Okay, now after that, here we keep on talking about, we are saying about heat as well as temperature. What is the difference between them? We can say that heat and temperature. See, actually, when we talk about heat, so we can say that when we talk about any body, so the contents of the body, or you can say the molecules, the particles of the body are always in motion, right? So when we provide energy to that body in any mean, so the molecules get that energy, they receive that energy and they get excited. So initially they were doing the more slowly motion. Now once we have provided the more energy, so they have got that energy and they got excited. Now they are doing more random motion. So while doing so, they provide friction to the adjacent molecules, and due to that, the hotness will be generated. That is nothing but the heat of the body, heat energy of the body. Now, when we talk about temperature, so we say that temperature is a parameter which decides the direction of flow of heat. Temperature is a parameter which decides the direction of flow of heat, or we can say that temperature is a parameter or is that thing which decides the degree of hotness or coldness. The temperature of a body can be 0, but it's not mean that if the temperature of body is 0, so heat is also 0. Achha, we know already that del Q equals to mc del. Del T is what? Temperature difference. From here, if you see, we can say that if the temperature difference will increase, so heat will also increase. Now I actually understand, with this one statement you can understand the difference between the temperature and the heat. When the temperature is changing, which means heat is also changing. Or we can say that when the temperature is increasing, we can say that heat is also increasing, always. But sometimes also we can see that the temperature is not changing, but heat of the body is changing. So temperature is only one thing which says that what is the degree of hotness or coldness of the body, which means how much amount of heat energy the body has, that we came to know just by knowing the temperature of the body. Right? This is one thing. Okay, fine. So let's talk about calorimetry. Now the questions from here, whatever the questions will be asked, that will be related to this concept. Actually a very small concept is there. See, when we talk about calorimetry, so calorimetry is a device. Basically, calorimetry is a device which measures the amount of transfer of heat. Calorimetry is a device which measures the amount of transfer of heat. So, basically suppose, let us consider with the help of an example. Suppose here I have provided a divider and here some amount of gas is there and here some amount of gas is there. Let us take this is having mass M, temperature T1, having mass M2, temperature T2. Let us take this is having a specific heat C1, this is having a specific heat C2. Now, suppose I will release this boundary from here. I will remove this boundary from here. So what will happen? These two gases will mix together and they will reach to final temperature. So let us say that this is nothing but they will reach to final temperature Tf. Now in this situation what will happen? Just simply try to understand. Achha, let us consider that T1 is greater than T2, which means this is a hotter gas and this is a comparatively colder gas. Fine. So in this situation what will happen? You see, when the hot gas and the cold gas will mix together, so what will happen? The hotter gas its temperature will go down, and colder gas, its temperature will go up, and they will reach to a final temperature. In this situation what will happen? Hot gas will release the energy, heat energy, and cold gas will receive the energy. Basically we can say this is nothing but a handshaking. We have the concept that handshaking means give and take something, give and take, whatever you give, equivalent you take. So here we can say that in this situation to find out final temperature, we can say that heat given by hot body equals to heat received by cold body. That we know that heat is M1 C1 del T1 and this is M2 C2 del T2. This we can say M1 C1 del T is what? Let us consider T1 minus Tf. And this thing we can say M2 C2 Tf minus Tf. So this we can treat it as a formula, but basically I don't say that you need not remember this thing, you have to remember this thing. That's it. What does it say? It says that heat given by the hot body is going to be equal to heat received by the cold body. Simple. So this is what we have to remember. This is the concept of calorimetry. Chalo. So this is, in this, if we go for these specifications, let's say that same gases are there of same mass. So in that situation we can say that M1 will be equal to M2, and if same gases are there, so they will have the same specific heat, so we can say that C1 equals to C2. So in that situation, these two will be cancelled out, and we can say that from here T final equals to T1 plus of T2 by of, you can make one formula. Basically, you need not remember all these things, you have to just remember this thing. This is what? Calorimetry, the concept of calorimetry, which says in one word that heat given by the hot body is equal to heat received by the cold body. That's it. Chalo. Let's discuss few questions on the basis of that, and then we'll proceed further. Let me give you a question. Suppose there is an ice block of 1 kg and having the initial temperature as minus 10 degrees Celsius. We want to convert this into 100 degrees Celsius of steam. For this process, how much amount of heat has to be given to the ice block? The question is, how much amount of heat should be given to the ice block? Okay, so for this, you can take few constants also. Specific heat of water is 4200 joule per kg Kelvin. Specific heat of ice is 2100 joules per kg Kelvin. And the latent heat of fusion of ice is 3.36 into 10 to the power 5 joules per kg, and latent heat of vaporization of water is 2.25 into 10 to the power 6 joule per kg. These are the constants that would be given generally. If you also slowly you will keep on solving the question, so automatically all these things will be remembered. Not to worry for that. Okay, let me tell you the question once again. The question is, there is an ice block of mass 1 kg. It has initial temperature as minus 10 degrees Celsius. Now, I want to convert that 1 kg ice block into a 100 degrees Celsius of steam. For this purpose, for this process, how much amount of heat has to be given? Or heat required, we can say. Fine? Chalo. For this, let's understand the heat curve first. Heat curve is what? Suppose here the object is at minus 10 degrees Celsius. Anything. Now understand one thing. When we are giving the heat, we are supplying the heat, so slowly temperature will rise. When you will take the heat out from the body, its temperature goes down. Right? Here, I will have to make it minus 10 to 100 degrees Celsius of vapor. For this purpose, I will have to supply the heat to the body. Now I am supplying the heat to the body. So the temperature will go from minus 10 to minus 9, minus 8, minus 5, minus 4, minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0. Let us consider this is your heat supplied and this is your temperature. So from here, heat is also increasing along with the temperature. Okay? Now at this point, here we have 0 degrees Celsius of ice. After that, again when we supply the heat, so its temperature will not rise. Its phase change will take place for the ice. So from here, we are supplying the heat. So you can see heat is increasing, but temperature is not increasing on the y coordinates, you can see. So let us take from here to here, this is 0 degrees Celsius of water. In between these 2 points, there is a mixture of ice and water. Now once completely 1 kg of ice has been converted into completely 1 kg of water, which is at this point, after that now when we supply the heat, its temperature rises to, suppose here it is 100 degrees Celsius of water. Now at normal pressure, at 100 degrees Celsius the water starts boiling. Now after that what happens? From here it will start changing the phase once again. It will convert 100 degrees Celsius of water to 100 degrees Celsius of steam. We will call it steam here. Now after that, if you are giving the heat, so once again the temperature will rise. So this is the process. This is called as heat curve. Understand, whenever the temperature is changing, here and for this process here. So whenever temperature is changing, at that time the heat what we use, that is what? MCD. Right? Now when we talk about phase change, at that time when we talk about transfer of heat, then we talk about latent heat. Here and here. Right? Already all these things about this specific heat, latent heat, all these things we have discussed already in the previous chapter, which is what? Thermal properties of matter. Fine. So this is the way how we are going to find out the total heat required. Let's find out first of all heat transfer to make it from minus 10 to 0 degrees Celsius of ice. In this situation, we will say that mc delta. This is what for ice, mass is 1 kg. The specific heat of ice is 2100 into change in temperature is 0 to minus 10, which is of 10. So this will become 21000 joules of heat. Right? Now after that, let's talk about from 0 of ice to 0 of water. For this, how much amount of heat will be required? So for this, we'll use mass into latent heat of fusion of ice. This is what? Mass is 1 kg. Latent heat of fusion of ice is how much? This is 3.36. 3.36 into of 10 to the power 5 joules, which we can say 3,36,000 of joules. Okay, now once again we'll talk about to bring it heat supply from 0 of water to 100 degrees Celsius of water. For this, once again here you see the temperature is changing, which is what? This phase. So here once again we will say that MC delta T. But this here, now this is in water phase. So now we talk about the specific heat of water. For this mass is 1 kg, this is 4,200 into of delta is what? From 100 to 0, which is acceleration. So this will become 4,200 joules. This much amount of heat. Now after that, if we talk about heat from 100 of water to 100 of steam. For this, once again, the phase is changing, so we will say M into of L. M is what? 1 kg. L is latent heat, which is 2.25 into of 10 to the power of 6. This will give you 225, 1, 2, 3, 4 joules. So now we have to add all of them. So total heat, let's refer it as 1, 2, 3 and 4. So we can say that Q1. Okay, so the total heat will become now, we referred all as Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3 plus of Q4. So we just simply have to add all of the heat. So if we add that, let me write all of them at a place, plus 3,36,000 plus of 4 times 0 plus of 225. If we add all of them, so that will become 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. This will become your total heat, which means this much amount of heat is required to bring minus 10 degrees Celsius of ice block to 100 degrees Celsius of steam. This is what one question. Let's talk about few more questions. So let me raise this thing and then we can proceed once again. Okay, so let's start a question. Suppose let's say in a container water is there of 300 degrees Celsius initial temperature. In this, I'll keep an ice block of initial temperature 0 degrees Celsius. Let's consider that the transfer of heat will take place between the water and the ice block only, or we can say that this mixture I will we will provide a adiabatic coating over them so that heat should not be transferred outside. Okay, so here the question is, what will be the final temperature of the mixture? The question is, what would be the final temperature of the mixture? Let me repeat the question once again. There's a 300 gram of water, 300 grams of water at initial temperature of, let us take 25 degrees Celsius. And 100 gram of ice block of temperature 0 degrees Celsius. So when the both will be mixed, what will be the final temperature of the mixture? So here, simply once again understand. The temperature of water is 25 degrees Celsius. The temperature of ice is 0 degrees Celsius. When both will come in contact, as there is a transfer of heat, as there is a temperature difference, so there will be transfer of heat. Now as there is a transfer of heat, so in what direction? So we know that heat flows from higher temperature body to the lower temperature body, which means the heat will flow from water to ice, which means water will reject the heat and ice will receive the heat. So we can say that in this situation, water will release the heat and ice will receive the heat. So first of all, let's find out that if this is 100 gram of ice block, to melt it completely to 0 degrees Celsius, how much amount of heat we need? So for that we say that heat required, or let's skip the language, heat required, let us take Q1, heat required to make the ice into water, I can say that M into L. Mass is 100 gram, which is 0.1 kg. Latent heat of fission of ice is 3.36 into 10 to the power 5 joules. Or from here we can say that this will be 4. So this we can say 336.00 joules. This much amount of heat we require to melt the ice completely into the water. Chalo, fine. Which is, have I done any mistake? Okay, fine. Okay, 33,600 joules, fine. Now let's check that when the ice will convert, the water will come to 0, during this, how much amount of heat it will reject. So let us take that is what Q2. That is what temperature is changing, so MC delta it should be there. So mass is 300 gram, which is 0.3. A specific heat of water is 4200 and temperature difference is del T. Initially, finally it is 25 and then 0, temperature difference is 20. So this will become, this to this will go, this we can say 75 multiplied by 420. If we do 75 and 42, $3,150. Okay. So if we can see from here that when the completely ice block completely melt into the water, it needs this much amount of heat, which is 33,600 joules of heat. But when the water will come down to 0 degrees Celsius, in this process, it can release only 31,500 joules of energy, which is less than this one. Which means, still, there will be few amount of ice which cannot be converted into water. Because now already water has also come to 0, So now it cannot release the energy. Now it cannot give the more energy because the temperature of ice and the temperature of water both will come to zero. And we know that when there is no temperature difference, no flow of heat, right? So on this situation, here we can say that in this mixture, some amount of water will be there and some amount of ice will also be there. And as temperature of both will become 0 degrees Celsius. So final temperature of water is, or mixture is, you can say 0 degrees Celsius. This is one question. So I hope the point would be clear from here. Let's talk about one more question on the same concept. So now, let's do one more question. Suppose 100 gram of steam is mixed with 300 gram of water. This is at you can say initially 15 degrees Celsius, or let's make it 20 degrees Celsius. So this in temperature of this is 20 degrees Celsius and the temperature of steam is, let us take 100 degrees Celsius, right? So when both will be mixed, then the final temperature of the mixture will become, let us take 80 degrees Celsius. Then the question is, find the amount of steam condensed. Find the amount of steam condensed. Let's understand the question once again first of all. It says that we will mix 100 gram of steam, which is 100 degrees Celsius, and 300 gram of water, which is 20 degrees Celsius. When this both will be mixed together, then the final temperature of the mixture will become 80 degrees Celsius. So the question is, how much amount of steam will be condensed? So here one thing we have to understand, that obviously the steam is at higher temperature and water is at lower temperature. So definitely the heat will be given by the steam and heat will be received by the water. So once the heat will be received by the water, so what it will do by using that heat, it will raise the temperature from 20 to 80 degrees Celsius. Right? This is for water. When we talk about steam, then what it does, first of all, suppose there is a mass of steam. That is what we need to find out. So this is the mass of this steam which is required for this purpose. So this much of mass will convert 100 of steam into 100 of water. First of all, then it will convert 100 of water to 80 of water. Here, whatever the heat will be released from the steam, it will be released in two ways. One is 100 degrees Celsius of steam will convert 100 degrees Celsius of water. Second one, the 100 degrees Celsius of water will come down to 80 degrees Celsius of water because the final temperature of the mixture is 80 degrees Celsius. So in this situation, we will say simply that heat given by steam equals to heat received by water. So in this situation, heat given by steam, which is what? Latent heat plus of the normal heat. And then after that, if we talk about heat received, so it will raise the temperature of 300 gram. No, one mistake I have done here. I think we are not supposed to give the mass of the steam. No. Mass of the steam is not given, that is why we have to find out. Na? Okay, sorry for the mistake. So let's start it once again. So this much heat will be required to change the phase of 100 of steam to 100 of water. Then this much heat will be required to bring it 100 of water to 80 of water. Then this will be mc del T. That heat will be required to bring it from 20 to 80 degrees Celsius of water. So this is what m we have to find out. This m we will take it outside. Latent heat of vaporization of water is 2.25 into 10 to the power 6 plus of specific heat of water is 4200 into change in temperature is 20, 100 to 80, right? And then this will become 300 gram, which is 0.3 into 4200 into change in temperature is 60. So if we solve this properly, so that will come 2, 2, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 plus of 42 2s are 80, 4, 1, 2, 3 equals to this is cancelled, 6 3s are 18. So this thing we can say 42 multiplied by of 18. Seven 56 0 0. So from here mass will become 756 0 0 divided by 0 0 0. This is what? 0. So 1 2 we can finish, and now this is 756 by 756 divided by 2 3 3 4 0. This is what you can say the mass of steam. That will give you the answer. Okay, we can skip the calculation. You can do it later. Fine. So this is what one more kind of question. Let's talk about there's a one more variety of question we can discuss over here. So let's erase this and then proceed further. Okay, fine. Now I think there's a lack of time, so I'll tell you a few more concepts which we'll be utilizing over here. So not so much. One thing is called as water equivalent. Water equivalent, generally it is referred in the questions with the term as water equivalent. What do we mean by this? Suppose I am saying that the water equivalent of a body is 0.02 kg. Which means that suppose if I'll take this much amount of water, so I have to give a Q amount of heat to raise its temperature by 1 degree Celsius. What I said? I said that suppose I'm taking a body, any body, water of mass 0.02 gram, so 0.02 kg, and I'm giving you Q amount of heat so that its temperature rises to 1 degree Celsius. So in that situation, the amount of heat which is required, that will be specific heat of that particular body. That will be a specific heat of that particular body. This is one concept which is called water equivalent. Acha, one more thing is mechanical equivalent. What is the meaning of it? The mechanical work done to produce 1 calorie of energy. So from here, W is your work, H is heat, then this J is your mechanical equilibrium, or you can say mechanical constant. This J is nothing but W by H is nothing but mechanical equilibrium. Actually, in the beginning, heat was not referred as energy, right? So what we did, we have compared the mechanical energy with the heat energy, and we have formed a relation that this much amount of work will be required to produce this much amount of calorie of or heat energy. So the ratio of these two is nothing but mechanical equivalent. So it is also referred as mechanical equivalent. So these two terms also will be utilized in your questions, and due to the lack of time for today, we'll close our class over here, and hopefully next time when we'll meet, we can start first law of thermodynamics, and then we can proceed further. So for today we can close the class. Thank you guys.